All right. So this is the Finance Committee meeting on October 20th. It's 9:02, and we have all of our trustees present, as well as staff is myself, Melina Marks, and Stephen Mead. And I guess we have a very full agenda, and I know Dana has to leave at 10 o'clock and Steve has to leave at 10 o'clock, but I put you first so that we can get you through. But we'll start out with the Gensco contract amendment for our Mullis Lake Campground. And we have the contract requests by Jennifer in your packet. She also printed it out, so you have it in front of you as well. And then I put in the amended contract into your packet. Some of those amendments are just because with the new request, so Jennifer is requesting now, we used to pay out, I think it was 45,000 plus 5,700 plus all these other kind of bonuses on top of that. And she's just asking for a flat rate of 70,000. That's correct. And so that's why there's a lot of red line in there, because that talks about a lot of the bonus rates, and that's why we struck all that out. When I was looking back at our actuals, what we used to do is contract with Gensco for additional services up there, so additional plowing and setup. And that's not something that we've done in the last year. But we used to pay Gensco somewhere around 70,000 every year. That's what it came out to. So from the town's perspective, this isn't a huge ask. And then we talked about those times when you might need to plow or something and we wouldn't get charged any more for that. So this would just be kind of that flat rate. Jennifer, would you want to say?
Yeah, the thing about the plowing is, we'd be using your equipment to plow, right? I mean, that's okay. Okay, that's as long as that's clear.
Yeah,
Any little way.
we've been using town now in the last couple of years, which actually helps justify the administration fee as well, and that's been incorporated into the new administration fees. But we'd open it up to any questions. This is a year contract to continue her contract, and we do recommend continuing the contract with Gensco.
So essentially, we're just making all the add-ons permanent because they're being done anyway.
There's no.
Yeah, and town's taken on the plowing portion of it, so.
And you're doing all the reservations.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and she has taken on all the reservations now, which we used to do, and now all the phone calls since we got Starlink goes to Jennifer.
Okay.
And I know Jennifer did bring any occupancy information if you guys wanted that as well.
The only thing, and I don't think we have to worry about this with Jennifer because she has a good record, the point about taking away the bonus, I think if it was somebody new and it was their first time, I would be less likely to sign the contract, because I think having a bonus structure is good to make sure that they're keeping it full. I think based on, all of the feedback that I've gotten and what you've included, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think we're probably going to continue to see it pretty full, right?
You are, would like to say something though. If you look at the back of your packet, it comes from 2025 all the way back to 2022. And the first part's right there, the money we make, highlighted in the yellow. The bottom half of it is the occupancy on the far right. And so if you notice, our occupancy went down this year. And I think that's for several different reasons. I think I heard one of you mention on your last meeting of why. I think one of the reasons was because of high price rate. The fire ban killed us. We had a fire ban for over half the season, and that killed my sales in the store, the boat, everything really, and all that. But once they found out they couldn't have a fire, they're like, oh, well, let's go to Little Moles. You can do it there. So if that's something we can think about working on, we talked about that too. I think that also, if I were allowed a little bit more leniency in making a reservation, a person makes a reservation at the beginning of the morning and they come in at check-in, they check in at check-out. That's a whole there. But if I got a person that comes in at 9 o'clock at night and they just want to spend the night and leave at 7 a.m., I have to charge them that $50 for that site, or can I give them a discount? Because they're not staying the full time, and that would get our occupancy up. And it won't give us the full $50, but at least it'd give us what, 45, 40? You know, something, if that's something we can put into the reservation system that I'd be allowed to do, because that would definitely bring up the occupancy.
I can't speak for everybody because I like being creative. So to me, filling a spot, it's a terrible item. Once that night is gone, it's gone.
Right.
So I think having that dynamic adjustable scale to where you have that availability, like, again, I can't speak for anyone. We can't even really approve things here. But I personally like that idea. Absolutely. That's just me.
Thanks, Jim. And I just want to apologize for everyone that I'm not there in person. I'm usually the only committee member that's usually there in person, so I hate that I'm not joining you guys there. I have a meeting that starts right at 10, so I had to be home. But I recommend sending this on to the board for approval. I think, again, as we consider all these expenses, Mullis is a fund that we have as a revenue source. And I think, Jennifer, the experience that you've brought and the quality of service that you've offered has been really exceptional. And again, if this is kind of similar to what we've invested in the past, we've just changing the contract a bit and acknowledging the contributions you're making, then to me, it seems really reasonable to send this on to the board. And I agree with Jim. You're there on the ground. And so I think any suggestions that you bring throughout the operating season or the booking season that you think would help improve service and or occupancy there, I would think that we'd be very open to those ideas. So yeah, I just appreciate all the feedback that you included in there. And you know, our family loves to be up there, and every time we're there, we have a great experience with you. So I think this makes a lot of sense to recommend to the board in terms of continuing this contract.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a revenue source for it. That's our trickiest problem.
Yes.
All right, so this will be included in the October 27th consent agenda at this point, since it is a recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Perfect.
All right,
So October
Thanks,
27th.
Jennifer.
yeah, and it'll go into our consent agenda.
So you don't want me here in person?
Not necessary, no. Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to remind you all, the lake is higher right now. I don't know how, yes,
Yeah, very exciting. This next one is a heads up for the trustees on a town hall roof fix. It's really not necessarily over budget, but how we're going to rearrange the budget to make this happen. So Steve has been receiving several quotes on how to fix our town hall roof and also the urgency to do so. So go ahead, Steve.
All right. Yeah, so tried to provide a little bit of the backstory. We actually have an updated quote that came in this morning. I know Chaz from Alpenglow was looking to get things nailed down from a supplier on the ISO board. It now comes in at 15,282, us still hauling off this one. And I believe it had on the other one, but this one sort of breaks down approximate poundage of waste. So to try and account for that haul off, approximately 4,000 pounds. Half of that hopefully is treasure or other things around here. So we'd keep that 1,000 pounds of haul off. Essentially, I'm looking for, I guess, guidance and direction for being able to move forward with getting this taken care of. And I've learned that actually that what I've kind of considered as phase two, the bell tower, that would be its own little package that would come in at, you know, more within that $10,000 spending in financial policies. That on a non-routine rain event like last Tuesday, pretty substantial source of water up there in the attic. And then you've got the skylight leak that is more than just a skylight leak going on. So step one, stop the infiltration, and then we can start working on things the visible damage on the inside that is now been a result of this.
My first question is the Alpenglow quote comes with, you know, their warranty. Who did our roof last and do we have a warranty for it from whoever did it last time? This is a 20-year warranty.
Like 1998,
Okay, so it was when it was
1890,
okay.
or yeah.
Perfect.
I could look into that. I do have, I'm anticipating a second quote possibly today, from Kinetic Roofing, who did the library. And has been involved with, I guess, other projects around town, but, just to, you know, and Lauren looked this over. As I noted,
Yeah,
thought it was thorough. I think the skylight, you know, is a different. That is not within Alpenglow's like wheelhouse.
sure.
And nor is it something Sunglass will do. So that prompted a little bit more conversation with this Kinetic Roofing. Maybe it's a double
Sure.
contractor on the situation, but
Yeah, and the reason I have that question, I mean, if it starts leaking again in 15 years, hopefully, you know, we can use this warranty, but where do we find it? So for previous work that was done, that was warranted. Because I honestly don't know, but
Good point.
Have we looked outside town for quotes?
that would be this Kinetic Roofing. Yeah,
Saw that. The issue for me is they look low.
sure.
These look low.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned that there's gonna be additional costs down the road that we may not foresee right now. Meaning the underlying roof that you said there's potentially extensive damage, and knowing the amount of water that comes through there, most likely extensive damage that will have to be fixed with a change order somewhere down the road, and that's where they're gonna get us. Is we might have a really nice quote for 20 grand, 25 grand, and then they come back and like, hey, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, I'm just saying this is what we've run into in the past
Right.
in remediation projects.
Yeah. The integrity of the plywood that's visible
Okay.
from up in the attic. It's good.
All right.
So we have that going for us, which is nice.
But if it were to go over this amount that we've been quoted and how we've figured out how to take it out of the budget, we would come to you all as a budget amendment. But yeah, we'd be mid-project and kind of held to that at
it's
that.
like what, 15% of what we thought it was gonna be?
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like 100,000.
Yeah.
Was that not?
I was gonna say.
The 140 was for the.
Kendall Mountain. Different roofs.
It's a little bit larger.
Okay. Copy.
For example, and I'm just using the grand as an example, that was 15 years ago pricing. That was $63,000.
Okay.
And was that beyond the EPDM? If that was EPDM on the roof there?
The roof was basic, it was a crappy asphalt roof, and then we did a rubberized overlay, brand new roof and everything, brand new plywood, brand new everything.
Uh-huh.
And again, 15-year pricing with a 10-year warranty.
Right.
Thank goodness we haven't had any problems because my warranty's about to expire. I just, again, not making a fuss.
Sure.
Just thinking that it might be a
Oh,
little low.
good caution.
So,
And Steve, you have one more quote coming in too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just kind of letting you guys know of what we're intending to do and how we're intending to fund it at this point. And then if it does go beyond this current funding, then we'll come back to the board or budget.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely critical. I mean, like Steve said, as long as I've been in town hall, you walk through and there's buckets in the hallway. Like we have to fix these buildings. And I was chatting with Austin a while ago and we both were talking about how at town and county, we have very expensive old buildings, but we have to maintain them. We have to set aside funding to maintain them. And I don't think we have an option but to move forward. Tyler, I appreciate your point about the warranty. And if this was in 98, we're almost at 30 years here. So I think this is long overdue and probably making some of these repairs. But maybe, so maybe Jim, to your point, maybe a question is like, okay, this is the quote for this project. What are these companies' approaches to additional services? Or if they get in there and things are different than what everybody thought.
Or if when
How
we're
does that work?
contracting with them, we could do a not to exceed clause. Would that work?
Oh, I'm fine either way.
Yeah.
Because regardless, we gotta get it
Well,
done.
yeah, that's I mean, we could put do not exceed and then they pull it up and they're like, well, I mean, we can leave, you know, the building might also, so.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one.
So maybe a heads up that we're starting this process and they might come back.
And I'm not advocating going beyond Silverton for quotes. I'm just looking for additional quotes. Sure.
That's a great suggestion.
Keep it local if possible.
Okay.
And ideally, I'm looking to have this, we take care of this before the winter, is why
I guess, no,
I brought to you all now.
man, I've been waiting on numbers for roofs for 6 years. This is great.
Well, see, there's the whole other piece too of all the metal. So the metal is atrocious on
Right, it is.
on the northeast side. Needs to be addressed as well. It just might not be phase one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Any other questions on town hall roof?
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. You can run out if you want.
Yeah.
Next week, can you promote Jennifer to talk? So next we have our compensation study report and philosophy discussion. And this is with our contractor Jennifer, and we are going to promote her to panelist. There she is.
Good day, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Great.
Good. I want to be mindful of time. I heard a couple of you have a 10 o'clock meeting, so I want to make this as efficient for everybody as possible. So my thought was to re-review or to take another look at the additional wages that I was able to find per our last discussion, and kind of flow from there. I came up with some descriptions, and then talk about next steps based on the executive summary that I sent out as well. Does that work for everybody, or do you want to start different than that?
And that would be up to the board, yes.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
So based on our last discussion, I heard you all say you wanted more data points. And you threw out probably 7 or 8 different towns for me to take a look at. And so to honor your request, I went back to the CML salary survey that was provided and looked for salaries based on position titles in the communities that you had recommended. I did take out Basalt and Telluride. They have such large budgets that it really skewed numbers, and I didn't think that was fair. And I heard you all talk about Basalt a little bit, so I wanted to be mindful of that.
Appreciate you.
So again, you can see where when we come to the town administrator, the public works director, parks and rec director, and a couple other positions, I was able to find more data points within the salary survey that was provided. And again, you can also see that there's still many positions that they just don't have data. And I found this again and again using that salary survey. And I find it when I do salary comparisons for other organizations, whether they're for-profit or nonprofit. So it's not unusual. I went with the midpoint or the actual that was provided. When I started to go through the process, and I was looking at the averages that I found, I start to see that, at least with the data that I was able to find, that the town of Silverton is not too far off as far as what they're currently paying and the mid or the actual that's being paid. There's a couple of exceptions, as you can see, the town administrator, the community development director. I think there was one other. Those were the ones that I saw that were probably skewed the most. But we can work on those to find what works for Silverton and is sustainable over the long haul. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions about the new data that I found or comments.
Like this. I think this is the more detailed report I was looking for, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback from the last conversation. So
yeah.
thank you. I do recall in our last conversation with the initially proposed minimum, mid, and max that they seemed out of line for what Silverton can probably pay or do sustainably, which I always try to look at sustainability for my clients. And Dana, I think it might have been you that said, maybe we move everything to the right one, so the mid becomes the max, etc. And again, as I was going through the data or finding new data and looking what we initially proposed, that's probably not a bad idea. I think there's some more finessing to do with that, but that might be, or I consider that to be a good starting point. We could shift everything to the right and then look at what Silverton is currently paying, look at the other data that's out there. Again, what is sustainable for Silverton, budget-wise, etc. So I think that's a good jumping off point for us to continue to work together and finalize the bands. So again, I want to throw that out there, food for thought moving forward and how we can finalize these in the coming weeks.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. That's really helpful. I agree with Jim and Tyler. I think this gives us a little bit more local context to kind of see where we are. When I look at the minimum, mid, and max, obviously we're not going to be paying everybody the max, but like if we were, this would certainly be like totally unaffordable for the town.
Yes.
And so, how do we split the difference where we are competitive because we do want to be able to recruit when we need to and also cultivate, really high quality employees, which I think we're doing, and then also be true to the fact that we are a small town with a very small budget.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of kind of either shifting things or maybe doing like a percentage, everything is discounted a percentage, because we all know at most positions here in town, and even potentially a little bit the region, like we don't get paid the same as many other areas. It's just not feasible here. So I like that idea. And I guess my question to you, Jennifer, with your experience is, how do you help towns figure out what they can afford and what is normal, right? Because of course, we want to be able to pay people to be able to live here, to find housing here. We want to pay people equitably. We want to be competitive. And we also have to stay within our budget. I mean, we're at a finance committee meeting where we're talking about lots of priorities today. So all of which are super important. So how do you help guide towns in like what a typical mix of, like, what do other towns do in terms of number of people at mid, minimum, and max? And is it just so nuanced because you're trying to retain a certain employee and you have someone else who's more junior that is at the lower range that you're training up? So I think just knowing more insight on how in the world we factor this into our budget is helpful.
Sure. I think you hit on it, Dana. I think it really is nuanced from city to city or organization to organization. You're all so unique and different that it's hard to know. I ask my clients to try to look forward 2 to 3 years of their budget, which I realize is difficult, but conservative budget of 2 to 3 years. What do we think is sustainable over that period of time to help us determine what our wage bands will be? And then so that's my first recommendation is we try to budget that way, see if this is sustainable when we finalize our wage bands and when we finalize the compensation philosophy. And and keeping in mind that we're going to do the best that we can, right? This is the data that we have, and then we have to look internally at the town of Silverton and what you can do. So it's kind of the data and then the secret sauce, which is you all, to make it work. And then when we think about how are we paying our employees, whether it's the minimum, the mid, or the max, I had sent another document spreadsheet that's called a compensation adjustment worksheet. And I chose 4 different data points, and we can change these up if they don't fit the town of Silverton's needs. But years of relevant experience, educational qualifications, performance metrics, skill sets, and certifications. So on a scale of 1 to 5, you rate each employee and kind of see where they end up, or where their average is. And then you go to the second tab under the scoring key, and that gives us an idea of where we want to be able to pay our employees based on those areas that we're rating them on. Again, we can change those up if that feels appropriate. We can change them up per department if we need to be more equitable. So something to keep in mind. But this is one tool that we can use to make sure that we are being equitable and consistent with everybody that we hope to give merit increases to, or when we bring somebody new into a position, whether they're fresh out of college or fresh working for a city, they've never done anything like this before. So I think this can be a useful guide for us moving forward. Oftentimes what I see when I do this exercise with clients, we start to focus on, okay, we've decided what our mid pay should be. And based on that, and then we look back and see what we're currently paying people. And oftentimes I'll hear my clients say, and I agree with this, within 3 years, 3 to 4 years, I'll say, we'd like to get everybody to the midpoint. So that gives the organization or the city some time to come up with a financial plan to move, if it's a big jump, to get them from where they currently are to that midpoint. Always based on performance. It's never a given, right? Always based on budget and what we can afford. And then from there, from the mid to the max, all of that is based on performance. And again, always based on budget. So that's, in my opinion, kind of the best flow to have to understand how do we get our employees back up to what we think is a solid mid pay that we think is competitive. And then from there, how, they're going to tap out at one point, they're going to max out at one point. What does that look like? We share that information with all of our employees so they can make life plans based on that information.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I really liked the kind of metrics that you had at the end. To me, that's what I was really kind of looking for, is like, how would you evaluate individuals individually, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing all the various components that go into making an employee who they are in their position. So I really liked that. I thought that was a great tool that we could use. And I think it gives a lot of transparency to staff for kind of how they can reflect on their own place in this, in these wage bands. I still struggle a little bit. So I really like using that tool as part of our compensation philosophy. I struggle a little bit still with a blanket goal of getting everybody to the midpoint.
Sure.
Because there's something about it that I'm just not sure fits Silverton for who we are and the type of employees that we have, and the wide variety and sort of skill sets and expertise and who we're able to recruit. And so I'd be curious, kind of the overall board's discussion around it. I'm very open to other ideas and thoughts, but I think I need a little bit more discussion and context for this idea that just inherently we'd have a goal in a couple of years as part of our philosophy to get everybody to the midpoint. But again, this isn't my field, so I'm very open to other ideas, and I don't know what the other colleagues have to say.
I like the idea. I mean, I guess it's fine to have as a goal, but based on economic fluctuations in our budget, like, I guess that's where, how realistic is it? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were able to increase our budget every year, then that would be something, but I don't know if we can work towards it without, yeah. it might be too difficult based on our budget.
Sure. So what I would offer to that, once we figure out what our minimum, our mid, and our max is truly going to be, I think that's going to answer a lot of these questions, right? That 3 to 4 years of getting some of our employees to the mid, it might not be possible because that could end up being a $7,000 jump, and that may not be feasible, and that's okay. But I do think that when we look at the process, we get our wage bands figured out and they're set. And then based on that, it will help build our philosophy. And then that's going to give us an idea of is it feasible or realistic for us to bring some of our employees to the midpoint within 3 to 4 years? It may not be, and that's okay. But I think we have to get those wage bands set first. And that's going to inform, I think, everything else that we do, and we'll start to answer some questions. And I remind my clients that the philosophy are our hopes, right? None of it is set in stone. We do share the wage bands, the philosophy, and those position descriptions that are on the second tab of the wage band data. We share all of that with the staff so they understand what's needed of them if they want to try to move up or go into a different department, education-wise, skill-wise, et cetera. And it helps them make life plans. If they're going to cap out, let's say at $75,000, is that a livable wage for them to support their life choices? So I just remind my clients of that when it comes to the philosophy. It's what we hope to do, and so we use that type of language. None of it is set in stone, and we revisit it when we need to, and we're transparent about what we can and cannot do based on economic factors.
Yeah, I really like that idea of starting from the wage bands and then looking at, okay, is anybody like significant? I mean, we've done some cost
Yeah.
equalization over the last couple of years. Like that's been a
Sure.
really intentional effort of the board to really get staff paid at a level that we can retain people because we know how critical that is for town operations and achieving our goals. And so I like the idea of starting with these wage bands, making sure that like nobody's crazy far to the left, right? And I
Exactly.
think we're seeing, generally we've done a decent job at working at this over the last couple of years. So we've built this into our budget over time. And then I really just like using this tool to kind of say, hey, do we have staff as individuals who really might be on the lower end, but based on this tool, we really could make a case that they need to be at a different point in the wage band. I like that nuanced approach to it with a really transparent, clear message and tool to staff of like, hey, this is where you are, this is where you could be, this is what you need to get there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know, Jim, you've done all kinds of business stuff. Do you have any other thoughts here?
I appreciate all the effort that's gone into this. I really enjoy the statistics. I like digging deep into this. Going in and looking at Morrison and Georgetown, obviously two communities that are much larger than ours. Digging in and looking at just median income and demographics. Median income from 10 years ago was right around 40,000. Median family income right now is right around 80,000. Our TV's off.
Okay, they're still there.
They're still there. Okay, good.
We are, yeah.
Looking at other communities, and I believe it's Morrison. Their median family income is 116,000. So understanding the subtle nuances of the process, we can't have the perfect graph or the perfect report. It's just not going to happen. We are a unique community with all the numbers vary, but roughly 700 people. Let's just call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And the population is fluctuating. The incomes are changing. Most people work 2 jobs. That's just how it is. Durango, it's been like that for years, if not forever. So finding that perfect spot for an income for a specific position, I think would be damn near incredible. And you've done a great job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
So,
that.
I mean, and I think the purpose of this was trying to better understand what we think we know but now we actually know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So Jennifer, what do you need from us to move forward? And Gloria, as far as this process goes, like we have some new revised wage bands. Do you need the finance committee to say, hey, yeah, we're ready to go present this to the full board? Do we need to like workshop this anymore as far as like actual numbers and say, no, change this to this and this to this? How do we move forward?
So my recommendation, oh, Gloria, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'll hear your recommendation, then I'll give my recommendation.
Okay, perfect. So looking at the executive summary I sent, if you look at page 2 under next steps, the wage bands that are presented, they're the initial wage bands that Gloria and I came up with when I presented the first time. So based on the new data that I put out there, I need recommendations from you all about what the final wage bands are going to look like. And if that's Gloria and I working together, based on your recommendations, however that works best for the group is what we'll do next. And then the trustees, or the finance committee, I'm not sure of the right group of people to do it, need to finalize what that compensation philosophy looks like. I will help and I'll brainstorm and I'll collaborate with you, but you all, the town needs to come up with what your philosophy is, knowing your nuances and how unique you all are. And based on that, based on your projections over the next 2 to 3 years, if that's how far out you're able to look, and how you want to be able to pay and support your employees. And then once those 2 things are done, then I think we can put those, put the wage bands in front of the full board, or the trustees, excuse me, to decide if they approve those, if that's the steps that you all take.
So I was going to ask you all how you felt about these wage bands, so that we could move forward basically with what Jennifer was saying. And then using the whole board for that compensation philosophy. So it's transparent to you all and to the employees.
So it seems like the main question the finance committee needs to decide on is, are these wage bands presented on the right numbers? Do we need to shift anything? Do we need to adjust anything?
And I will say that Jennifer and I did work together on these. So sometimes she'd come back with me back at a number and I'd be like, well, I don't think we can do that. Let's reorganize that. So we have been working on these together.
Yeah, I mean, if you helped with these, Gloria, then I'm good with these wage bands. If you were able to look over them as well and go through them with them, because you have a better idea than I do, so.
If I will say that based on our first conversation, knowing what the town administrator is currently making, I believe somebody in this group had said that's likely not what we can continue to afford to do for the next individual that takes this position. So we might need to, on the initially proposed maximums, we might need to make some adjustments there, or the finance committee, maybe however you want this to work, Gloria and I working together, again, to be sustainable and what makes more sense for Silverton.
Yeah, I kind of look at the 3 director level positions, the administrator position, public works director, and parks and rec director. And those are such critical positions. And I also just wonder if we would ever be able to pay at those top levels, right? Like some of the decisions we made recently were for very specific, discrete reasons. And I don't know if long-term those upper bands are within reach for the town. But I don't know, Tyler, Jim.
No, I'm in full agreement with you. Keeping it fluid and understanding that it is truly a sliding scale and that these numbers will fluctuate. They're not absolutes. They're not set in stone, like you said. That's my approach. Truthfully, you don't find a unicorn every day. You don't. And we made a recommendation based on unicorn status. And I say that with a smirk on my face, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it's someone with your qualifications and what you brought to the table for all of us. And over the past, for me, 6 years of being on this side of the table, watching where we were to where we are today, definitely worth every penny that what we had suggested and passed. So I look at that, I'm like, yeah, 140,000, that's great. But is that what it's going to be in the future? Most likely not.
Mm-mm.
What I could do, so the way I look at our personnel budget is I don't want it to exceed 45% of our operating expenses. I look at it that way on what's our ROI. And so what I'd like to do is just do a projection just based on personnel for the next 2-3 years to give you guys kind of that idea. And if we were like, maybe if we're at minimum, we go just to the mid in the next 2 years, what that might look like, 2 to 3 years. And I'll try and get that to you guys probably by November 10th if I can kind of, because then it would also include operating stuff. So you can compare and see the percentage of personnel versus operating.
I think that would be helpful. And I think, again, there are a couple of positions like building inspector. We really may never be able to afford the building inspector or keep them busy at that level for that wage band, or, that, like, I know it's hard to talk about specific positions, but at the same time, we might need to have some more nuanced conversations about specific roles based on the type of town we are.
I agree with you, Dana.
So maybe I'll work with Jennifer to refine this. And just based on these conversations too, of like, well, I don't know if we'll have another unicorn, so maybe we don't want to set the max to be the unicorn status.
I think that's exactly what it should be called.
Yeah, and we'll work with that to see if we can't refine that a little bit more and then try and do a projection out to present to you all.
And the reason why, and I agree with this, the entirety of this conversation, going back, looking at populations. One of the examples was Georgetown. Georgetown has a population of right around 1,350, 1,400 people. And the reason why I bring that up is because that is taxable revenue for the community, for the town. Our tax base is small because our population is small.
Mhm.
We bring in the majority of our money through tourism tax money, and that's what funds a lot of this. And when that fluctuates, obviously the revenue to our town and community fluctuates. So having these numbers set in stone, I think, is difficult, but having the sliding scale, understanding that these are fluid,
Yep.
that has been, I think, the goal of this entire project and process.
Great. One recommendation I do have as we finalize or as Gloria and I work on this together and come up with wage bands to present again. Oftentimes what I do in this exercise is I look at the title, and I don't mean that it's the community development director or the Parks and Rec director. I just look at director and create a wage band based on being in a director position. And so I recommend that we do that. And that will give you a little bit more leeway, I think, as well in those higher level positions. And it's not so much based because they are the public works director. We'll probably still need to look at that to make sure that wherever we end up in the philosophy, do we need to make a pay adjustment based on that? On their current compensation, but that will help kind of make it a little bit more succinct. And again, if you're a director, this is the wage band that you fall in. There's always going to be nuances, as we've talked about, but I think that'll make things a little bit cleaner as well.
Yeah, Jen, we can discuss on that because our directors are all over the board on like their responsibilities. So I'd be a little worried just to kind of lump them all together.
Okay.
Our public works director has a lot more responsibilities than our other directors, for example.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd love to have that conversation with you. Is the board okay with us refining this or is the finance committee okay with us refining this and then bringing it back to the board as a whole? Or do you want to?
I am.
Back here.
Yep, I am. I think it's time to kind of have the larger discussion.
Great.
Thank you.
And then I would offer to draft what Jennifer had given us on the last meeting was examples of what a compensation philosophy might look like. So I could offer to help draft one of those for you all to review at a board level. Would that work? And then you can refine it or throw it out and come up with your own, but just to give you guys a framework.
Yeah, would that be coming from you or from Jennifer or both, kind of both?
Yeah, so it would be coming from me based off of her examples that she had given us.
Great.
And it would also be based on the projected salaries like out, so that you guys would have a better idea of what you can strive for. Okay.
Great.
All right, so Jennifer, you and I will be in contact hopefully
Yes.
soon and get this probably to the entire board. I don't think we can get it accomplished by this Thursday, so I'm gonna give the expectation of November 10th,
No.
if that works.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. I hope you have a nice day today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. We'll back up. All right, we've got Silverton Family Learning Center. Thank you guys for being patient. Appreciate it. Come on up.
Is chair okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're really grateful for this chance to be here with you in person and say thank you for your emergency funding approval. So thank you so much for that. And since you are our partners and supporters now, we'd love to give you a couple quick updates and then make an ask looking into 2026, if that sounds okay. So a lot has happened since we were last together in person, and we just want you all to know that we have finalized kind of a team distributed leadership model that's really working, I think, really well for our board and our staff to keep our organization running as smoothly as possible in this transitional time. So we're feeling very positive about that. That includes increased partnership with SPS. Jim, I know that was one of your questions last time about what does that look like to be fully incorporated with the school district as a safeguard. And while that would still be a longer term goal for us, for example, Superintendent Bars has fully taken over the coordination of the way we receive state funds. And I do think that will lead to a better understanding of that funding source for us and how to maximize it. We've applied for 5 grants, identified 5 more that we'll apply for by the end of the year. We have begun the process of reaching out for corporate and personal sponsorships. And as you saw, that was one of our pieces in our long-term funding proposal. We just had our fall fundraiser on Saturday and we made $13,000. So we were really excited about that. It was a big number for us. We've had that fundraiser for a long time and that was a good one. And Dana, we did get approved for that city market. There will be a literacy night at the big school and we're going to try to get families signed up to link their shoppers card. So I'm just painting this picture that we're trying to diversify our funding as much as possible and a lot is happening, but the need is still there. So we want to be good partners to you and just update you on all of those things. And so that will bring us to today's ask, if we may. So you saw in your proposal that we really do feel that SFLC helps the town of Silverton live up to its master plan. And partnering with you also allows us to really embody our mission and vision, which is that early childhood is at the center of a healthy, thriving community. And so we would really like to join the list of essential services that you guys have as standing line items in your budget, maybe at a similar level to the Carriage House or the Senior Center, because those are organizations that serve our vulnerable populations in Silverton. We did make a request for 2026 that you might consider $2,500 a month for us. And that represents about 50% of the monthly deficit we're trying to overcome in 2026. I think an important clarifying point there is that right now, 2025, we're operating at a $10,000 a month monthly deficit. And so projecting into 2026, we are closing that gap, and we are looking for your help to just continue to diversify our funding and make sure we're not operating at such a big deficit anymore. And you've already done your part so much for this year, and we just kind of like to start the conversation about what that could look like moving into the future. So you saw our proposal, and we wanted to keep this really brief, respect your time, and also just give time for questions and let this be a conversation. So yeah, that's what we're thinking. And we're prepared to answer budget questions, organizational questions.
Dana's about to say something.
Mhm.
I can see
Well, I
it.
was just gonna say, do you guys have the numbers? I know you did increase tuition. Do you have the kind of the percentage of rate increase or what that has been for families?
Yeah, so when we were first notified of the change from Colorado preschool program to UPK, we instituted a 35% tuition increase across the board that year. That was like 2.5 years ago now, and that was a really hard pill for families to swallow. But we felt it was necessary to keep operating. But we are kind of at, and then year on year, we've implemented 5% increases on tuition, which was a part of the rollout when we made that decision. This was the previous board. And we're just trying mainly, it is important to us and our mission to not price out any families. And so we're walking this delicate balance of what are state childcare costs on average, and then what is, our median income comparative to the state median income, and just trying to make it so that all of our families can receive these services, but that we are no longer in a position to offer childcare for free, which under Colorado preschool program, we essentially were able to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. That's that's what I want to know. Pretty significant increase that's already been implemented.
What is the monthly cost
For tuition,
for tuition? Yeah.
for the infant room, it's 1,100 per month. The toddler room is 900 per month, and the preschool room is $750 a month.
1,100. What was the other one?
900, 750.
Thank you.
I think that when we heard from you guys before, I think it is so apparent that early childhood education and reliable, affordable childcare is a really important economic development strategy. And it's in line there with priorities around year-round income, year-round employment, stable and affordable housing, like workforce development. It's all right up there. I think, I won't speak for my colleagues, but I think the tricky part for the town is like, what's the revenue source for this? And we've invested a lot in housing, and we're facing the challenge where our housing position and staffing, does not have a dedicated revenue source for this. And so I am very keen to continue to have a conversation with the county around the lodging tax, and what kind of options there are in that funding source, because that is a dedicated funding source that the voters approve for childcare. We also see a role for the town in having some sort of contribution. I don't know if we could meet you at the $2,500 a month level.
Yeah, I think
But I
Dana,
think it's a really important I think it's a really important budget investment.
this like 2,500 a month is only, it's our ask for 2026 because we have received a grant to help us create a ballot initiative to increase the lodging tax by 1% that would be specifically earmarked for SFLC. And we're working with the county to do that. However, it won't be on the ballot until voting time of 2026 to go into effect 2027. And so we're really just
Yeah.
looking at this like next year of, I guess for you guys, your fiscal year, it kind of overlays two of our fiscal years, but yeah, so we are working with the county to do that. They are also they've provided us like a 45,000 2025 ask, and then we're asking for them to do the same for next year. And so, but then after that, what our ideal goal is that we remain a very doable line item for both the county and for the town. Just more to like show that support, and for us when we're getting grants to show that we have the support from our municipalities. But that it wouldn't be that largely that ballot initiative is what's covering us and not having to like rely so heavily on your guys' support.
What, for the current lodging tax, do you know what percentage of that's been collected is going to the fee? And like and I'll tell you, the reason I'm asking this question is the county does collect monies that have been approved by voters to be used for certain things. And I know sometimes they don't actually release that funding. And so before coming to the town and asking for something, I would really want to make sure that we're using voter approved monies to support this first.
Yes, and we have, so they had in there, the initial lodging tax that was earmarked for several things, but in there, it specifically said childcare. And so that's why I don't want to say went after them. That sounds aggressive, but
Well, that's what the money's for.
yes.
You have to, in order to claim it's yours, you have to do it.
Yeah, and we did lobby that, but that's why they gave us 45,000, which represented, I can look at my proposal, but I think we were trying to be cognizant of the split between affordable housing, which was the other big part of that voter initiative. And so we went and like talked with Ann Chase, and we essentially did like a 60-40 split. But of back pay because we hadn't asked for it up until then, because we hadn't needed it up until then. The state was providing enough money for us to operate. And so that was the $45,000 ask. And then our 2026 ask is a similar ratio, 60-40 of whatever they make from that 2% lodging tax. And then going in 2027, we'll back off of our ask of 60-40 to allow more for the affordable housing, because we will ideally, I think our voters will pass this 1% additional increase that will be entirely earmarked for us and would make up our deficit almost entirely based on historical funds of what the lodging tax has been.
But you're right, none of that money was allocated until we asked for it. And then I would say since those conversations began, the county has been a generous supporter.
Well, and generous supporter is not the word I would use. I would say that they're
Reasonable
duty.
supporter, yeah. Yes.
On,
Yes.
give that to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they're not being benevolent.
That's true.
It's their job.
Yeah.
They're collecting the revenues to be used for certain things. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that the county's investment in housing over time has been significant, and the county's investment in the SFLC building over time has also been significant. But yes, there are revenues collected at the county level that are for specific things that benefit county town residents.
And you're caught up on all those funds? Guys,
Our ask that they did grant for 2025 gave us that 40% of the 2%
Okay,
that they had in their account.
okay.
Is there any additional information that you all would need to make a decision either now or you'd make a recommendation today or to give to the full board to make a decision?
Well, I mean, we just did our draft budget. So this would be completely unbudgeted.
Yep.
Yep.
And we were already,
Stretching it. I mean, personally, I would like a little more time to dig into this. Looking at averages from other communities like we've been doing with salaries and wages and payroll, I don't think you guys charge enough.
So I have done a full analysis on tuition and I can give that to you guys. I think like it's really hard to compare across the board. We offer significantly less hours of childcare than a lot of, you're looking, like if you just were to look it up online.
Right.
A lot of facilities go 7 to 5, 5 days a week. We go 8 to 4, 4 days a week, some weeks 5. And so when I did my analysis, I based it on hours of operational childcare available.
That's awesome. We able to see that?
Yes, I have it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can send that to you guys.
Please, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is, you guys provide a great service.
Well, and in addition to that, I mentioned last time I was with you all, we are part of an early childhood council and they offer a coaching service to basically coach you through that. Like, are you maximizing your tuition and how much really can you anticipate to get through to glean from tuition given your population and demographics? And that was something we were considering doing in conjunction with the ballot initiative and just making sure we are getting the most out of that. But yeah, it's always tuition and state funding is always going to be tricky for us because they're both enrollment based. And so the cost of being open does stay the same because we want to maintain our staff as kids go up and as enrollment goes up and down. And so that's why we are looking for funders like you guys who might be able to just, as the state used to do, share like lump sum types of investment because that's really what it takes to stay open. And billing gets really tricky with like, oh, someone wants to be here on Friday and they don't want to be here on Thursday. And
Yeah,
it is very tricky.
To
Yeah.
Whitney's point, like we have to pay our infant teacher whether or not we have one student, one infant, or whether we have the max ratio of 5 to 1, right? So that's, I think, the biggest issue. I will say that like at our current rates, we already have families that just do not pay. One of the things that as a board we're going forward that we're looking into is a tiered approach based on income. So that we can still provide childcare to all the families. You know, it's not, we can't turn someone away, right? Like a lot of those families, like their parents need to make money and we're not here to make their lives harder. We're there to like help. And so I think that there is a strategy for us moving forward that we've talked about of like looking at the taxable income and basing a tuition off that, because then we could maybe fill in the gaps that we're currently seeing from a flat rate. And kind of talking about that equity versus equality discussion is something that matters to us. But regardless, you know, when we think about tuition in general, it's one of the smallest levers that we can honestly pull in terms of what our budget is. You know, like, and I'm not saying like every $100 literally counts to us in this moment, but
Right.
It is just something that we have drastically changed over time, but it just doesn't overall change our bottom line.
And it
because our
was-
population is just so little.
And it was the first lever that the board pulled and here we are, just didn't really make up the difference. I think when the board initially voted I wasn't on the board at that time. I think when they initially voted to increase tuition, there was this idea that it would be a bigger piece of the puzzle of making up for this deficit. And it just, here we are. It just, yeah, so it's tricky for us.
I
With
think
that.
it's similar to how we think about town, right? There's a base level of operations, whether you have 700 people or 1,000, whether you have one kid in that room or 5. And so that's a similar operating model. This never happens, but I'm so sorry to say I have to jump off, but I would, you guys answered a lot of questions for me in what you've done in the past and kind of where you hope to go in the future for sustainable revenue source, recognizing that probably SFLC needs some level of subsidy because at the state level, at the tuition level, that's probably not going to cover all of operating costs. And so I like this approach. I'm interested in some level of investment from the town. I don't know if we can do the $2,500 a month. And then with the intention that like that gets weaned off over time, you know, that like there's a revenue source that's a bit more sustainable. But I recognize that we've done these kinds of investments in other partners for periods of time, and this seems a little bit similar to that. But I don't know if our budget, recognizing all the other priorities. I mean, we're choosing between lots of really important, great things. And so I don't know if we can do the $2,500 a month, but I would advocate for some level of investment. And I'm so sorry, you're in good hands with my colleagues. And I appreciate your guys' time and commitment. And thanks, Gloria. Thanks, Jim and Tyler, for carrying forward.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you guys, just.
Yeah, and we would
Sure.
do not, I mean, in terms of like black and white, we would love for you guys to find a number that does feel feasible for you. That's a starting number that would obviously be the most helpful to us. But there's a lot of lead time here. We're talking about 2026. So having a commitment from the town does help us be more competitive to other types of funders. And it just lets us know like how much more deficit do, you know,
And how to
make up for and how to plan for that. But yeah, so we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Even considering it at all, and hopefully we
mean,
can find something that.
I think that we should, to echo Dana, I think that we should support you, and I think we can probably support you. I don't know.
The number yet.
I don't know if we can do that number based on the budget we just passed. Yeah, I mean, it's an essential service in my mind. So I think that if there's, I don't know how we're gonna go back through and look for more money, but it's, you know, I imagine it's something that we can do.
I guess since it did come to the finance committee, I'd be looking for some kind of recommendation.
Okay. I mean, I would recommend trying to give them some funding. Again, $2,500 would be incredible, but I'm not sure where we would find that. So I don't know how. And without looking at the budget, I don't know what that number is.
I would ask for a little more time to look over everything.
Okay.
When are we?
When are we scheduled to meet next?
As far as, our finance committee?
Bye, Dana.
Bye, Dana.
Dana
Bye,
says in
guys.
5 days. She said in 5.
When's?
Bye.
We finalize our 2026 budget in December, though.
Yeah, so we're going to public hearing. I'm gonna have it mostly finalized by November 10th.
Okay.
You guys will go out for public hearing and then anything that you want to add after that.
Okay, so we would need to have some idea before. I mean, hopefully November 10th, but
Yeah, that would be the goal.
yeah, because anything
Try and get it.
after that is just going to be too messy. Okay.
We could have a quick meeting in a couple of weeks.
Another finance committee meeting?
Just a quick little
Yeah.
short, happy.
Or should it go?
17th, that would be the normal date for a finance.
Yeah, we need to get it before the 10th.
And so part of that, would that be me showing you budget numbers and where it might fit? Is that,
Like what, I guess what we could. Yeah, and I mean, I'm happy to look through it too, because I think probably something's gonna have to be cut.
why don't, and this is just a suggestion, we could, because I'm getting a lot of finalizations on some numbers, hopefully on the 27th, right? Next Monday. So scheduling it after that to show you where it would fit from there.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that could be on. Opening up screen here. I mean, I guess that would have to be on the 3rd if we wanted to do it around the same time. November 3rd in the morning. We do have a work session that afternoon, so I just wanted to, that doesn't work for you.
No, I've got medical director.
October 29th.
Yep.
Done.
Done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, morning, afternoon, I'm available,
Leave it to you.
Morning it would be fine.
like at 9 AM.
That would be fine.
Dana's pretty much available then, so I'll just double check it with her, but that's usually when we do our agenda setting.
Would you like me to come with a budget information or you guys just want that?
Send that prior?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of information, to what level of detail do you want? Because I have bits of detail. You want just major
Yeah,
buckets of like our,
Yeah,
no?
and you said you did a tuition comparison too? That would be awesome to see.
Okay. And I can just send that to you, Gloria.
Yes, and I'll distribute it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll set this meeting for I said the 29th, right?
You did.
Yeah, okay. Just want to double check at 9 AM. And I'll just double check that with Dana, that she can be available, and it'll be a finance committee workshop. And by then I'll have direction from the other items as well. And so we can look at the budget on how that's going to be drafted for the 10th. Does that work?
Yeah,
All right.
and yeah. And the rest of the board is gonna have to also approve it, so there's no,
Yeah.
but
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it very much. Yeah.
Congratulations on finding $85,000 in 2 months. Good job, guys.
Oh, we found much more than that.
Yeah, we're trying. but-
We're ocean.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All sincerity, congratulations. Yeah, that's big one.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you, team. Got my direction. And if there's anything else you think of, feel free to email me and I can incorporate it. Right, next we have our
Thank you. Have a good day.
center contract, that we contract with the chamber for. And we're gonna promote Deanne to panelist. She had actually requested 35,000. I had 30,000 in the budget, but it was 35,000. And then on top of that was the 15,000. I'll let her explain. This time I won't mess it up, Deanne.
No worries. So in the proposal that I sent the town of Silverton was 3 options. The base rate at 35K, which keeps us at the minimal being open at the high tides. An additional 15K would have put a Anisi Park attendant from June through September. So that 15K had said just July, but that was actually high tide train time during the height of the summer. That really came back from feedback from former Parks and Rec director Sarah Fredine, wanting some assistance with the bathrooms, the showers mainly, and just having a point of contact. That being said, Anisi Park at the structure it is now is a sheer cost because there's no bookstore. Whereas the main visitor center has the main bookstore that really kind of offsets about half of the cost or more than half of the cost nowadays. So I asked for the base rate to go to 35 for staff retention, and then still chipping away at some of a staff increase in pay, and then B, being able to invest more in the bookstore. So being closed more often means less bookstore sales. So we added some new items. We have pint glasses. Carrie Metzer really kind of manages that, and so we really bolstered up the bookstore, but we're still just now finalizing what the summer brought in for all of that. And so we have those initial costs. So base rate at 35K was the contract that Gloria sent me, and there was just a couple of adjustments that didn't affect cost or anything. 2 of the adjustments to the contract were, instead of receiving a monthly payment, we would like to receive a payout like last year, where it was 3 chunks, January, April, and July, because that's when our costs are. So receiving a monthly payment doesn't really help us when we're closed in October, November, December. So this last year, we received 3 payments of 10K, January, April, and July. And at the 35, it would be 11,667 at January, April, and July. And then that helps us get through our yearly contract. So it was just how the payments were scheduled out, matching 2025. And then the other is actually beneficial to the town, and that was under Town of Silverton responsibilities. The chamber has been able to pay all expenses out of the visitor center budget. It used to be town and chamber splitting some of those costs. Town would remain responsible because it is a town facility, the electric, water, sewer, trash pickup, and heat. All other expenses can come out of the visitor center budget. So telephone, internet, copier. We used to have a huge postage stamp payment when we were old school and mailed out like physical brochures that the town used to pay for. We haven't done that in years. We do mail some things that people request, certain maps, an occasional magazine, a Colorado map, but with everything gone digital, we don't really have those postal expenses anymore. So we never actually asked the town to reimburse that. All those costs were able to come out of the visitor center budget. So that being said, it's not a chamber, it doesn't fund the chamber. The chamber gets paid to manage staff, taxes, finances, like everything turnkey for visitor center operations, the bookkeeper, for $6,000 a year. So that, is under my director position. And then the remaining of it and book sales have been able to pay for the function of the visitor center. So even this year, for example, I'm running Carrie through October where we thought we might run out at beginning of October, but with our bookstore sales, we actually are going to run, maybe be able to open a little bit in December. Part of the reason I'm doing that is because A, we do have the finances to do that. And B, my primary staff was going to have to look for another job by eliminating the job that she used to have through the visitor center. And so staff retention is really critical to the visitor center, which is honestly, I'm down to one person, Carrie Metzler. And then, costs of everything have gone up just in our world in general. So I would love to get them closer to, $22 an hour, being competitive with the shops in town paying people $25 an hour. And the amount of years that they have worked. So it's staff retention, actually, making it a viable job competition and not losing these staff that I have had. And then in the winter, we also have been bringing on Becky Rhodes, but not until January, with those new monies, as much as I can keep Carrie on just for staff retention. And then Becky Rhodes comes in and helps some in January. So those were the only two changes to the contract that Gloria had submitted. And I wanted to know if this group had any questions.
I don't think I have any questions.
No, I think everything was in the presentation. Thank you.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you for giving me the time and for Gloria working with me on the contract.
You serve a vital purpose. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to say, empowering Carrie Metzler and making that staff lead position has been a game changer. It makes it more feasible for the chamber to continue to manage this contract. Carrie is so dialed in. I just really want to give accolades to the visitor center, to Carrie Metzler, Pam Welty this summer, Becky Rhodes. We're staffing seniors in our community, and I just have to say, without Carrie Metzler, it would not be as smooth as it is.
Well, you guys are on the front line cheerleading for all of us.
Oh, and it's
Tonight,
rough
that's-
on days for them sometimes. They call me and dealing with the public at large can be tricky at best, but those ladies do a good job. Yeah. All right, you guys, that's all I have.
Awesome.
Thank you, Deanne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the heads up on this one is that I would be putting 35,000 into the budget instead of 30,000. Unless you all had recommendations on her other budget requests. And then putting this contract in the consent agenda for the 27th.
I think the 35.
Mhm.
Yeah, fine. But yeah, I
Great.
think that's based on the conversation we had at the full board level the other night. I think that's probably what we can afford this year.
All right, great. We've got that one going. Next, that's the direction. I will put that 35 in and put the. We're making it through pretty fast. There was 9 agenda items.
Job, but I think this is also an approach, understanding that economics change, it's the ebbs and flows, high tides, low tides. And employee retention, staff retention is key, but you can't keep everybody. Just because you want to doesn't mean you can't. So you have to understand and be malleable and make those changes. And I think that's a philosophy that we should all adopt.
Adapt.
One of them.
Adapt to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just say, yeah.
yes.
All right. Our next request is from San Juan Development Association. They sent in a letter for you all and they are requesting, this is the next one, yes. $12,000. In the past, we've given them 10,000 and 5,000, depending on the year. But wanted to get board or finance recommendation for how to, approach this with the board.
Did we have anything? We didn't have anything in our budget for this, did we?
Not currently, no.
I think with all of the other requests, I'm just not sure that.
And this is Sarah's $1,000 a month. Does she want it all in one chunk or 1,000 a month?
She did not specify in here. How we've done it before is just all one chunk.
Mhm. They are that quasi-governmental
Mhm.
agency that helps us with a lot of things,
I know.
including our new signage.
Are helping out.
Hmm.
And if there's any other information you might need from me to bring to the board on this one too.
Much easier pill to swallow than 30,000.
I will say typically in the past, San Juan Development has brought in funding to
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
community,
yeah.
This is a.
As help, it's like-
That I've worked with a lot.
Yeah.
over the years, and I think a lot of community members have, they're worth their weight, like they pull their weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a person saying yes to this. I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would.
Let's put it, yeah,
make that recommendation.
send it to the board.
Yep.
Does that include that letter that was from the Fort Lewis
No, that's separate.
separate ask?
The $315 ask.
I was definitely, I was like, that's
And San Juan Development works with them.
perfect.
So I know they've had a couple trainings here in town hall together with the small business center. They do come up and utilize our town hall to meet with businesses and be available for businesses.
Good.
Well, when they were located in the building and they would host quarterly meetings and learning sessions, everything from Excel to BusinessWorks, Peachtree, all accounting software for educational purposes. And I think that is desperately needed. And Mary Shepherd, as the executive director, she's done a great job. Obviously, Miss Sarah, great job.
I would have just included it, but it was a letter to the board, so I wanted to.
Oh, I think it's-
You guys know it. Okay. All right. So my direction is for recommendation for the San Juan development funding at 12,000 and the recommendation for 315 to the small business Center,
Mhm.
Development Center, Small Business Development Center. Perfect. All right, now we're going on to groomer financing. So I went back in time a little bit and I remembered in March of 2024, I presented this all to you, to the entire board, and they said, and you all said to pursue the financing for the replacement of the groomer. But this was at a time where we thought we could sell our groomer for 30,000. Right now, this is just kind of an update to you all on where we're at with all of that, but we haven't been able to sell our groomer for 30,000. We're dropping it down in price to try and get it to move. We do have a entity in town that would like to do a trade for us, and that would be to help us crush our current waste pile by the lagoons for the groomer. So we're looking at that. But I have an updated quote in there from Caterpillar. And that would be for, oh, did I not put the updated one? I do have an updated quote from Caterpillar we can put in there.
What was so if we have an updated group thing from Caterpillar, what's the Aspen, why are we buying one? How does that fit in?
Oh, so Loki bought his new groomer from Aspen.
Okay,
So he bought that one. So he has a groomer to sell us
okay,
that would help him pay for the groomer that he bought from Aspen, basically. But he did get a grant for that. So this would cover that gap amount, because I think the one that he received from Aspen was somewhere around 200 and something.
so.
No, go for it.
I'm just, okay, so we're buying Loki's used one, or we're buying a new, and the financing is just separate?
Right.
Okay,
Right. We would be buying Loki's used one. We did this last time through Caterpillar and Prenoth as far as financing goes,
Okay.
because they do offer competitive financing there. But I'm also looking at the Bank of
San Juan.
San Juan's
Okay.
as well, and a Citizen State, to see if I can't get like the best price, but so far Caterpillar's offered a really good one. The thing about Caterpillar though is that they have this balloon payment at the end. So you have to account for like, well, all right, so we're only gonna pay this amount each month, but then, or this amount each year, but then our last year, our 5th year, we would pay about $30,000. So anticipating that coming up, as opposed to a higher interest rate over those 5 years where you don't have that balloon payment at the end.
Okay. And
And so-
we need a new groomer?
yeah, well, I mean, I guess if Loki got a new one and he needs to sell his, then now's the time for us to, because that's what we've done every time, is
Right.
always gotten Loki's used one, sold ours, he gets a new one. And if we don't do that, he'll probably have to sell it to somebody else.
In March, I did present what was wrong with our current groomer, but I don't have that offhand. It was a lot of technical jargon that they had run through. I remember fumbling through that in a meeting with you all at some point.
So then the older.
It is
Right.
What? Something wrong with the blade?
blade.
Okay. But so then the
Couplings or something.
the current older unit is the one that would be traded out, potentially to be traded out for crushing of rock.
Right, right.
Asphalt,
Asphalt.
yeah, asphalt and concrete.
In concrete, that huge pile that's by and we haven't finalized that deal at all yet. We're just kind of feeling it out on how much that would.
We need to figure out also what to do with that, because it might,
Alternatives.
you might not be allowed to use it based on what's.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And we do need to, working on cleaning up that area, anticipation of a new wastewater plant. Darkus, I don't know if you've noticed, he's put a gate down so that no one can just dump there anymore. It was kind of the unofficial second dump that is not allowed. We are gonna have to pay for that at some point. So we
Yeah.
put up a gate there and said no more illegal dumping on our grounds.
His new nickname is Merlin. For all the magic that he's wheeling around here. He is doing a great job. He's doing a great job.
So we need a recommendation to the board.
Well, and so this is a heads up on where we're at. I'll probably bring the whole thing to the board, but I wanted to give the
Okay.
finance committee kind of the lowdown on what's going on and answer any questions, or if there's any more information that you guys think that I need to bring to the board for this final decision.
This program that we've been doing with Loki has worked really well, I think, for years. And I think it's helped him and it's helped the town. So we can keep it going. Yeah.
What Loki does like about this trade option is that he could utilize the person that we would be trading this to groom Minnie Haha.
And assist him.
Yeah, so we still wouldn't, like, the groomer would still kind of be in use, but he would pay him directly through the snowmobile club and his grant. So that was his recommendation, was like, yeah, do the trade. We're looking at much.
That's better. Okay.
And then it keeps that additional piece of equipment here in town.
Exactly. And then he was like, and potentially I can use him for doing Minnie Haha.
Hopefully I can use him for my team.
Yes.
So the question was about the 5-year term or just about the whole structuring of?
Just letting you know, because I think I brought it all to you guys during the budget draft, and I should have just included it in the budget draft because we had already approved it earlier that year. So I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then of course, I'll work to get us the best financing price for it. And
Right.
we'll work, but it will come back to you all in financing, basically, for the whole board. In a resolution. Okay.
I like it.
I know I'm probably just giving you too much information, confusing you, but I just want you to be aware of what we're doing with it. And then our final thing here is the sales tax collection.
Fun
So
went down.
it did finally go down last month, or no, in August. So we will see what these next couple of months bring us. We still are ahead of last year. Overall, that 1.4 million at the top, over 1.362. So we are still ahead, but we did go down. Curious, really curious to see how this last month was for us. So we'll see.
The train stopped for a
Train.
week.
I'm thinking
Oh, you're August, September. Yeah. Yeah.
September will shake out. Seemed like we were pretty busy, but then this month could be down. We'll see, because of all of our rain, torrential rain.
Well, and going back to being in the meeting, what Jennifer said about fire bans and having how that impacted the backcountry, that was real. And we all saw it. Yeah, the numbers are what they are.
Yeah.
So this is 2 months behind.
Mm-hmm.
So what was reported now is what month?
August.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
About what we saw.
All right. That is all I have for you all. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We knocked it out in an hour and a half. We're adjourning at